The shoot 'em up or shmup genre of games are very special to me. In a time where gaming is such a lucrative business and big name game developers are pushing the boundaries of the entertainment medium, shmups offer a taste of tradition, clean, to the point fun. They're often fast paced, high adrenaline and flashy experiences, easy to pick up but very hard to master. Due to shmups existing in a space of tradition, I feel as though the genre is filled to the brim with incredible gems that often go overlooked. So have you ever wanted to dive into shmups but not known where to start? Or maybe you're a shmup veteran looking for some new games to try out. I'm going to try and do my best to help you appreciate this genre I love so much. As a quick disclaimer, I'm very much a fan of vertical scrolling bullet hell type games, and while that might be reflected in my recommendations, if you prefer a more classic style shmup, feel free to follow the links in the description to some cool YouTubers who are better suited to talking about these than I am. Number 5 on this list is Sonic Wings 2, or also known as Aero Fighters 2. So Sonic Wings 2 is notable for having one of the strangest casts of playable characters in a military themed shmup. With 8 different ships to choose from and pilots ranging from robot to pop star to talking dolphin, you're sure to find a playstyle that appeals to you. My favourite is Mau Mau, whose bomb freezes the entire stage, making her a great pickup for beginners. Overall, this is a fairly traditional vertical shmup with approachable bullet patterns and an easy to understand power-up system. Each stage has an interesting theme, some fun set pieces, and a flashy boss. While ultimately a little unremarkable, Sonic Wings 2 is a fantastic way to dip your toes into the water to get a taste of how shmups play. One of the older games on this list, though not the oldest, but it still feels and plays nearly as well as more modern titles. Number 4, Crimzon Clover World Ignition, or also known as Crimzon Clover World Explosion on the Nintendo Switch. This was the game that got me absolutely obsessed with bullet hell style games, and I think it's a wonderful introduction to the genre. Crimzon Clover has multiple modes, with one of them being a novice mode. And don't be fooled, because this novice mode is still harder than most other games you might have played. As a complete novice years ago, it took me about solid 10 hours of practice to be able to consistently clear this on a single credit. Once you're finished with the novice mode, there's an arcade original, time attack and boost mode to play around with. There's a lot of content here which could easily last you hundreds of hours if you dedicate yourself to mastering this game. What makes Crimzon Clover so special is just how over the top it is. At first it looks like a cascade of explosions, bullets and metals, but despite the chaos on screen, everything's perfectly readable and functional. Bullet patterns are, in a word, amazing. Yet not only is Crimzon Clover dazzling, it's mechanically unique. Crimzon Clover's main feature is the lock-on button that lets you target a number of enemies with a tracked shot. By utilizing this in tandem with getting up close and personal with foes, you can enter a break mode which unleashes a seriously stupid amount of firepower onto the screen. This can be followed up with a double break, furthering the cascade of destruction. Look, Crimzon Clover is just downright satisfying. It's a masterclass in shmup design. It's almost hard to believe this was created by a single developer. It's absolutely amazing. Number 3 is the Cave trilogy of games on Steam. Now I'm including these as one entry on the list because they all serve a similar purpose. Each of these games has a novice mode, which is a fantastic tool for practice. And please don't be put off by me recommending an easy mode. These easy modes are anything but that. I find Cave's novice modes are perfect introductions to the more complex mechanics these games offer. Each of the 3 Cave games on Steam have their own unique sets of gimmicks and complexities. Clearing each of these on novice settings, you can familiarize yourself with these as well as the general layout of each stage, including extends, power-ups, and enemy spawn points. Death Smiles is likely the easiest of the bunch because you can select the difficulty of each stage before playing. You may want to play earlier stages on a harder difficulty and keep the later stages on a lower difficulty. It's up to you. I recommend Death Smiles to people that enjoy the Gothic Lolita aesthetic or just want something a little bit different, as this game has the unique design of allowing the player to shoot both left and right. This leads to some very interesting stage design where you must weave back and forth over the entire screen to survive. Dononpachi Resurrection is my personal favourite of the 3, offering firepower that almost rivals Crimzon Clover. While likely the hardest of these 3 cave games, Dononpachi offers an auto bomb feature, meaning you'll use bombs when hit instead of losing a life. It also has a bullet cancelling feature that allows you to bypass tricky segments with some careful planning and tight play. However, overusing this and cancelling too many bullets causes additional enemies to spawn that will auto-track the player's ship. It's a fantastic risk and reward style of play that I never get enough of. Dodonpachi is a very complicated game with a lot of mechanics to master, yet I feel the difficulty curve is near perfect, making it an incredibly rewarding game to spend time with. Finally, Mushihime-sama is beautiful. It has a stunning nature aesthetic that is represented in both the backgrounds and the pulsating bullet patterns that mimic organic life. While a little easier than Dodonpachi, it does not offer an autobomb feature which some may find challenging. This is generally considered the best of the three games, but honestly I feel like it comes down to personal preference. While these games are a little pricier than other shmups on this list, they offer multiple modes of play that can drastically change how you approach them. Don't ever think of them as single games, but rather as small collections of games each. They're all very much worth your time and money. R-Type. R-Type is the oldest game on this list, being released by Irem in 1987 and shaping the shmup scene for years to come. It's also infamously difficult, so why then is it on this list? Well, R-Type is colloquially known as a memorizer. The difficulty of this game doesn't so much come from needing snappy reflexes, but knowing what's coming up next and how to plan for it. This makes it a fairly approachable game to learn with the use of save states, and when you do learn it, it feels fantastic. R-Type truly is a classic, and while it's not everyone's cup of tea, you can't deny the impact it had on not only shmups, but arcade gaming itself. This is a fantastic game to attempt to learn, and there are plenty of resources out there to help you. I promise you, being able to one credit clear the original R-Type is a party trick that could impress anyone. Well, maybe not anyone, maybe just a few people actually, but look, you'll feel good, I swear. Finally, rounding out the list is ZeroRanger. Honestly, the less said about this game the better. This game isn't what you expect, and while I could talk on and on and on about why this is my favourite game of all time ever, I won't. You simply need to experience this for yourself. But let's go over the basics. ZeroRanger is a simple to pick up and hard to master game. In this way, it's the epitome of what shmups are at their core, and I think the devs know this because the game is absolutely littered with fun references to classic games in the genre, as well as quite a few mecha anime tropes. References to Gurren Lagann, Evangelion, Gunbuster, they really know their stuff. Anyway, I like to recommend this game to people because it's not overly flashy like Crimzon Clover, and it's not mechanically complicated like, say, Dodonpachi. It doesn't require a ton of memorization like R-Type. It's just a slick little package that's easy to understand, yet will still surprise you with some amazingly clever design. Where the game gets exciting is the power-up system. You take control of one of two ships, with each having different firing patterns. At the end of each stage, you can choose between one of two power-ups, which drastically alter how you approach future stages. While both ships have the same options at the end of each stage, they each utilize these new power-ups in different ways. This leads to a lot of possible options and different strategies, yet each choice feels incredibly well balanced. I find myself constantly trying new things with this game, constantly opening up new paths through stages and finding new ways to score. What makes this so beginner friendly is not just how straightforward it is, but the continue system. You can accumulate extra attempts at the game by scoring, meaning you don't have to clear the entire thing in one sitting and see the end credits. And trust me, you do want to see this through to the end because it does some very interesting things. If this final recommendation feels a bit stilted, it's because I'm struggling to discuss this game without spoilers, and I think the simple fact that a shmup can even have spoilers should indicate that this is such an interesting piece of media. If there's one game on this list you should try, it is ZeroRanger. And with all that said, I hope this video can help at least one person find a new game to love. There are so many interesting shmups, it's hard to give a proper breakdown of every possible avenue into the genre. But if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, I'd love to talk with you further in the comments. Until then, happy shmupping!